1, 2, test.
Yes.
Audio test.
Test.
Checking levels.
The advice provided on this podcast is general advice only. All statements made are considered by the participants to be accurate, but accuracy cannot be guaranteed. It has been prepared without taking into account your objectives, financial situations, or needs. All participants in this podcast, including guests, may have a financial interest in any or all of the products or services mentioned. Before acting on this advice, you should consider the appropriateness of the advice, having regard to your own objectives, financial situations, and needs. If any private products are detailed on this podcast, you should obtain a product disclosure statement relating to the products and consider its contents before making any decisions. Where quoted, past performance is not indicative of future results.
Recorded July 28th, 2017. It's the Money Path Podcast with your hosts, Bob Iacchino and Mike Arnold, founders of Path Trading Partners. On episode 82, the What and the Why is sponsored by Motive Wave. Go to pathtradingpartners.com and download your 14-day free trial. So let's join Bob and Mike with a casual conversation, news in the markets.
I hope people are watching the Bitcoin update. Boy, all the actionable stuff, the Bitcoin triggered, and all three targets hit.
Beautiful stuff.
Absolutely beautiful.
Yes, sir. You know what I want to laugh about?
What?
The NASDAQ sell-off yesterday.
What about it?
After making a new time all... How do we say that again? New time all high.
Now you're overthinking it. It's all new time highs.
I can't say it.
Time highs or all time whatever. Oh, see, you over intellectualized the
new time highs.
What would be the correct way to say?
New time is the key. New time is not a thing. Hey, it's a new time.
It is.
So all new time highs.
Right.
Is that it?
Right.
All right. I'm saying it today in my CME commentary.
All right.
Because I'm going to talk about NASDAQ.
You did say it. You did say it
I
once.
do, but how awkward was it though? Like you could see me struggling to think of it, and then all of a sudden I lost my commentary mind because I'm trying to think of this thing. So new time is the key. That's it.
You're trying to be too much like me, and it throws you off your game.
You are cognitively complex, Mike. Like you have to focus on the thing you're thinking about. Otherwise, you're like that. Your brain is like that. Remember that old toy at Spencer's Gifts? It was a globe with 1 bolt of electricity, but if you touched your fingers to it, all of a sudden there would be like 5 bolts of electricity. And if you touched your other hand to it, there'd be 10 bolts of electricity because it would come to your fingers. That's Mike's brain. If you take him off task, all of a sudden 17 electrical bolts go in different directions, and he's all screwed up. You know what you need for that, Mike? You need a drawn reciprocator dingle arm to reduce sinusoidal deplanation. If you could just reduce sinusoidal deplanation, you'd be fine.
Did you call me a dingle arm?
No, I said you need to get a drawn reciprocation dingle arm. Because that helps reduce sinusoidal deplanation.
Where does one find a dingle arm?
I totally agree.
I don't know. Ask Rockwell Automotive. I think you can find it on Rockwell Automotive's website.
You could probably find it on my YouTube channel, too.
I watched that whole damn video, and I said, I have to say this in the podcast because Stafford will die. And I literally replayed it and put it in the notes in my iPhone so I'd say it right. That cracked me up. I'm like, what is this? Because the guy was so serious. And I'm like, okay, a turbo encabulator could have been something from the 90s. It's possible.
Can I ask you a question, Bob, since you brought up the NASDAQ sell-off from yesterday?
Yeah.
Well, funny thing is when the NASDAQ sold off bigly, Snapchat actually rallied big.
That's so funny.
It hit a low of 1314, and when the NASDAQ took a dump, it rallied up to like over 14. Well, it's like the inverse relationship. What if the FANG stocks are flash crashing? We all have to run in and buy Snapchat. Did you Interactive Brokers now, which I have an account with, the Snap the borrow fee? You know, we talked about shorting Snap before. The borrow fee. The borrow fee is now at 73% annually to short Snapchat.
Oh my God.
73%. Oh boy.
So it's funny that NASDAQ sell-off was actually no. So the NASDAQ sell-off yesterday was funny to me because it illustrated a point which I'm going to cover in the why. But the sell-off was triggered by J.P. Morgan strategist. His name is Marko Kalanovic, and Bloomberg dubbed him Gandalf.
Gandalf.
Yeah, he's Gandalf because they said his magic-like accuracy is what they said. His seemingly magical accuracy.
Is this Gandalf the Gray or Gandalf the White?
This is Gandalf the White.
Okay.
He when I first heard he was called Gandalf, I Googled pictures of him, and I'm like, he doesn't look anything like Gandalf. The guy should at least grow a beard and own it. But yeah, he's been dubbed Gandalf. So it was the market's Gandalf moment that caused yesterday's sell-off. And we fell 2.5% in less than 2 hours, right? So it's not so much that we fell 2.5%. That's happened before. As a matter of fact, we fell more than that on June 9th. We fell close to 3.5%. But it's happened before. It's no big deal. But it happened in less than 2 hours, and it happened from a note from a J.P. Morgan strategist who all he did was say exactly what Mike's been saying in podcasts and in Pat Jets for frickin' 3 weeks. Because it's like all he did was go, volatility's low. That's dangerous. That's it. I mean, I'm paraphrasing the note, really, but that's essentially what he said. But you combine that with a pending GDP number, which, I think a lot of people thought was going to disappoint. It actually came in. We'll cover it in the economy segment, but came in as expected. You combine that with that slightly. I mean, 2.6, 2.7. I saw plenty of 2.6s, and I think GDP now was 2.6, wasn't it? Or is it 2.5?
They went to 2.8.
Oh, did they? Okay. Yeah. I thought last week, in the last couple of weeks, it was a 2.6.
It was 2.5. Then on yesterday, they went to, which was Thursday, they went to 2.8.
All right. So you average that out. We're almost right there. But it's funny because that particular move, you combine it with the pending CPI numbers and with an all-new time high. And you just had people covering tech stocks. That's all. It's no big deal. And now we actually see, as we speak, NASDAQ is a little bit higher, although I'll leave it to Mike to look at the charts and see if it's a good buy or not. But it just was funny to me because it illustrated something, and I'm kind of teasing my why here. Normally in a segment like this, I would just blurt it out, and then I'm repeating myself in the why, but I'm going to save it for the why.
Well, the VIX, we hit the 8 handle, remember?
Yep.
We hit the 8 handle.
Yep.
All new time low.
Ooh, I think you're Gandalf the Gray.
All new time low, 884. That was on a intraday trading business basis, not a closing basis. And we had hit I believe we had 892 back in 93 was the prior all time low, and now it's 884. Well, now we've and yesterday it rocketed up to like 1150, but then still closed back down at 1016. Right now we're trading 1089, which is still, we're in the tens. So,
and Dumbledore.
I'm Dumbledore.
You're Dumbledore.
You had to go to Dumbledore.
I'm looking up famous wizards. I can't call you Merlin. That's too obvious.
He's the Cookie Crisp wizard.
Not the Cookie Crisp wizard.
Yeah, you are. You have that little wand with the cookie at the end.
I don't want to be the
I'm
Cookie
looking
Crisp
at the
wizard.
10 most powerful wizards in literature right now, and Merlin is number 10. The most powerful, apparently, is Harry Potter, and the second is Gandalf, and the third is the Crimson King. So you're the Crimson King, Mike, because you don't want to be Harry Potter.
What's the Crimson King?
Only in the last novel of Stephen King's Dark Tower series does the gunslinger actually come face-to-face with his nemesis, the sorceress Crimson King.
I want to be Alanon from the Sword of Shannara series.
I don't know what that is. He's not even listed here. You can be Pug.
Pug?
How about Doctor Strange?
Fine.
Fine, you're Doctor Strange, which is so fitting, actually.
Now you've completely my brain's going in 13.
You got 5 different electrical volts. Do you guys know what toy I'm talking about?
Yes. But I'm all over the place now because we'll have to there are lots of earnings this week. We'll have to get to Facebook in a bit. But did you see that WhatsApp? You talked to me about that because I don't know all these things, but that has 1 billion daily users. And it's also got a Snapchat clone in it, and it's got 250 million users using WhatsApp's Snapchat clone now.
WhatsApp has a Snapchat clone.
Yes. It's hidden.
I use WhatsApp all the time. I've never seen it.
Yeah, because it's on a different tab.
Oh, it's a different tab? So
it's like buried.
It's the web one. It's not the phone one, or you can find it on the phone?
It's on the phone one. That's what this whole article about. So they don't even push it, WhatsApp status. It's called WhatsApp status. It's a version of Snapchat stories now. It's 250 daily active users. That, despite it's being regulated to a secondary dedicated tab in the app. Snapchat, by comparison, only has 166 million daily users of its entire app. So now WhatsApp has more users of its Snapchat clone on a hidden tab than all of the users of Snapchat.
It's called status. I can't find it.
It's somewhere. So I thought that was interesting.
Well, there it is. Status.
Look. So
that's funny.
Bob's going to be snapping photos of himself.
Now, WhatsApp does have a desktop component. I'm downloading that, but Instagram does not have a desktop app, right?
Right.
And does Snapchat have a desktop app?
No. Nope. It's interesting. So, what is it? So now 2 billion people on the planet are on Facebook each month. 250 million people use Instagram stories every day. 2 billion messages sent between people and businesses each month on Facebook Messenger. It's Facebook's got a lot of users, and we'll see what they did with their earnings. But before that, Bob's now deep in the WhatsApp app.
I found it.
You found it. Did you see briefly yesterday? Because this will tie into earnings too. We're like doing a what's coming with earnings, but Amazon, Bezos surpassed Gates as world's richest man in intraday trading until the Nasdaq took a dump, and then Amazon released its earnings last night, and then the headlines, Bezos back to second richest.
Isn't that funny?
He was like, for a few minutes, he was like, rich, rich, rich. Oh, no.
Did you enjoy your time as the world's richest man, Jeff?
3 hours and 36 minutes. And
how did it feel to be the world's richest man for 3 hours?
He will probably, once again, I think he will longer term surpass Bill Gates.
Of course he will. I mean, you look at growth of Microsoft versus growth of Amazon, it's ridiculous.
And in very sad news, Apple trimmed its iPod lineup to get rid of the Nano and Shuffle are gone.
Oh, I used to like the Nano.
The Nano and Shuffle. Why are all the are these going to get tweeted out with the podcast? This Electro Brain and Mr. Cookie Crisp Monster.
Sure, why not?
Are you going to do that?
If they even make it to the show.
Yeah.
Well, you better keep some of this stuff in there. It's too dry.
You're too.
It's
dry.
like eating Cookie Crisp without the milk. Too dry. Oh, see, you got me off track. My brain's going 13 million miles per hour because now we talked about the VIX. Now I'm back to the VIX. You brought this up earlier about the mystery trader with the VIX trade.
Yeah.
Can you cover that?
Yeah. So there's a huge bet out there. It was in several different stories. I'm not sure how the actual details got leaked. I'm assuming it had something to do with Reince Priebus. I don't know. But if successful, all right. So a trader made a massive bet that the volatility index will jump from near record lows. Again, something Mike's been saying for weeks on end. And this would be a $262 million payout, according to a person familiar with the trade, so unnamed sources. So the investor sold 262,000 VIX puts that expire in October with a strike price of 12. The trader then used those proceeds to buy a VIX 1x2 call spread, which involves buying 262,000 October contracts with a strike price of 15 and selling 524,000 October contracts with a strike price of 25. So what that essentially means is took in the premium, took in the if you sell something, for those of you that don't know, if you sell an option, you get the price of that option, you get the money into your account. If that option goes profitable, you owe back the amount of money in excess of what you sold. You obviously owe the money that you received as well, but in theory, you still have that in your account. But this particular trader does not have it in his account because he used that money to make a bet that the VIX would expire someplace between 15 and 25. Now, he did a 1x2, Mike, is that right?
So if it...
You cut off. What?
He did a 1x2, so
if it goes above 25, he starts to get hurt. Yes,
and then at some point, if it goes really high, his whole thing blows up on him. So essentially what has to happen is I doubt he's going to hold this, though, to expiration. He's going to wait for some spike.
Was yesterday enough?
No, we need a spike. It's got to be above 12 at least. It's got to, mid-teens, a nice spike into the mid-teens, which we've seen a few times.
And it should sit, right? Because that 1x2 won't really gain much.
But it's got to happen closer to October. I mean, that's when, but we've spiked there a number of times. Even back on July 6th, we spiked above 13. Back in May, we spiked to 15 and 16. Back in April, we spiked to over 16. So any spike like that, we've already had 3 major spikes. Even in March, we had a spike to 15. Anything like that will, close to October, close to these expirations, will trigger a bunch of money into his account, and I'd be closing it out. This is something that you're not going to want to, because if it spikes and then drops back down, it doesn't do anything for him. Or if it spikes way too, like if it continues to spike and stays above 25 for an extended period of time, if we had a major drop, it would hurt him. Like if back, what year is that? Back in 15, if we did what we did in August of 15, where went up to 53.29, even on an intraday basis, that could crush his position because he'd get margin calls.
What do we learn from this? What's the 2-cent takeaway?
The 2-cent takeaway is, he expects some event coming in either late September, early October, which will drive volatility way up, which essentially would have to be some kind of significant market sell-off.
So don't gamble, kids? Is that what we're saying?
Well, this is somewhat of a bet, although I don't believe the VIX has ever closed below 10, on a closing basis, 10.5 in the entire month of October. On a closing basis, if October's end of September and October are generally the most volatile time for the markets every year. So that's what we're looking at. And I did have something for Food and Fashion Nook.
I like that you called it Nook. You made it a fashionable name.
The weird thing is the Food and Fashion Nook is the last segment I would think Mike would get excited about.
I'm very excited. Did you see this new? The Lyft is partnering with Taco Bell for late night munchie runs.
Wait, what?
Yeah, Lyft and fast food restaurant chain. They have taco mode, which allows riders to add on a Taco Bell side trip during their ride with a simple tap within the app. So you can go in the app, your Lyft app, and hit taco mode, and you're going to get on your eventual destination that Lyft's taking you to. They're going to make a side trip to Taco Bell for you.
Fantastic.
This is classic. It's now only rolling out in limited pilot at the end of July and August 3rd to 5th in Orange County, and it starts at 9 p.m. and goes to 2 a.m. local time. And then they're going to expand taco mode into additional markets by the end of the year with an expected nationwide rollout in 2018. This is fantastic. This is a fantastic mashup.
That's
It's
awesome.
terrible. All their cars are going to smell like chalupas, and it's going to tank their stock.
No, this is. They're not.
Chalupas are so good.
No, but you're when
Somebody
you
should make a
get them,
chalupa cologne.
you've been partying way too much. You're trying to get home, and I need tacos. So, this is fantastic.
I don't party too much. I party the right amount.
I mean, who has not made been in a Taco Bell drive-through line or in the store like at 1 a.m. or 2 a.m.? I haven't been there recently, but I have been there in my lifetime. I just thought that was good.
It's awesome. I think it's a great idea.
Now,
They got to start doing this kind of stuff. They really do.
who's Uber going to pair with then? Like,
Escorts.
no.
I'm make a quick side trip to the Asian massage parlor. Let me just tap the driver's balls. Sorry, that can't be in the show.
It's over now.
The Russian bathhouse for me.
We really do need to do an X-rated show, but let's talk about other things.
Yeah, let's talk about stuff that makes the ratings go down.
You can leave that in. You can leave the tap the balls in.
Yeah, that's not bad to say.
Oh, that's not on the 7 words you can't say on television.
I don't know what words you can't really say on television anymore.
But you remember that George Carlin bit, don't you?
Yep.
I was a kid when that came out. That went around. Everybody was like, he swears, he uses swears.
This is gone. No, I wonder if this has gone off the rails.
This is like, remember that toy where it was a train set and it went off the rails? That's what this is.
Did you see Norway? This is very important. Norway is now taking the lead in the race to build autonomous cargo ships. They're launching them in 2018. It's going to make short trips delivering fertilizer. Dubbed by shipping executives as, quote, the Tesla of the seas.
Why? Is it electric?
Yeah, I guess it is. Let's see. It's scheduled in late 2018 to start selling fertilizer 37 miles down the fjord from a production facility to the port of Larvik. Using global positioning system, radars, cameras, and sensors, the electric ship is designed to navigate itself around other boats, boat traffic, and dock on its own. So now you were getting into the world of electric autonomous cargo ships.
Yeah, because I don't believe Tesla is in the lead in autonomous driving. I don't think they are.
They aren't. But
No.
I wouldn't want, if I was a shipping company, I wouldn't want to be called Tesla of the seas based on what I think is going to happen to Tesla. I wouldn't want a boat dubbed Tesla of the seas. And in other news with the self-driving and electric car stuff, Toyota is now set to sell long-range, fast-charging electric cars in 2022. And this was also in the Wall Street Journal, big article, I think, yesterday afternoon. They're going to be focusing on their, what is that kind of battery? It's a solid-state battery instead of lithium-ion. It's the new solid-state battery technology, which will drastically increase the range and reduce the charging time. The current Toyota prototype, this is from the Wall Street Journals, is 400 watt-hours a liter. The current Panasonic is about 200, looking to max out at 400, which is lithium-ion. The current Toyota prototype is already at 400, and their target for 2022 is 600 to 800 watt-hours per liter. So that's really going to change the electric car game. And they're looking to roll these out starting in 2022 with these different solid-state batteries. That might change the Tesla Gigafactory strategy drastically, as you won't need a bunch of these Gigafactories. So, and Tesla's fully invested with Panasonic. That's what their whole battery structure is. So we'll see what this does. Very interesting, though. Solid state battery news.
It's funny because I read an article a while ago that I don't remember when it was, that Detroit is absolutely stomping Silicon Valley in terms of autonomous driving. They're like the leaders in autonomous driving right now in terms of the technology being close to finished is Ford, GM, and Renault.
Renault?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, Renault.
that's the ultimate. That should be in the ironic segment.
Yeah, Renault.
Leader in self-driving technology, Renault.
I actually just found the article. It was in Wired too, so it was a periodical of note for technology. But yeah, they rank Ford first, GM a close second, and Renault third. And they said Waymo's got great technology, but they're so far behind in the production of actual vehicles. And that's why they ended up partnering with, who'd they partner with? Hertz, Avis? They partnered with a rental car recently, right? Waymo? I don't remember. Somebody did. I don't remember who partnered with Waymo. It was a segment in the podcast. Anyway, their whole plan was to develop these cars and then partner with a big automaker, but the automakers have just screamed ahead of them in terms of producing cars. There are Ford Fusions and Chevy Cruzes on public roads in Michigan that are autonomous. They're developmental vehicles, but they're out there. Like you drive next to them in Detroit.
It's Lyft and Waymo partnership.
Lyft, okay.
And Avis partners with Waymo too. So you have Lyft, Avis, and Waymo.
It's funny because GM partnered with Lyft as well. I wonder if you can get an autonomous Taco Bell visit.
What if you can just send your car to Taco Bell to get your chalupa?
That's what I mean. That's why, I'm such a fan of autonomous. As long as there's I want to drive mode, I'm such a fan of that. I just imagine being able to go, hey, car, go get me my Taco Bell. Dude, where's my car?
That's really, you send your car out and it never comes back. That's the real, dude, that's my car.
You're calling your car. Where have you been? You know you have a curfew car.
And there's hot sauce spilled all over the inside. And it's
your car ate your taco. Dude, my car ate my homework.
This is all going to be bad for teenagers going off to the lake near a tree to smooch. The car will be spying on them for their parents.
I was looking at cars for my niece, who's 15, and my sister asked me to check out some cars to see what I thought. And I am only looking at cars that are trackable cars, which a lot of them are now. And so, one of the cars, I believe it was a Nissan, said this comes with Apple Home and tracking. And basically, you turn that on and it can't be turned off from in the car, I think. I don't know, but literally, the kid can't go anywhere and you can't follow it. I called it. But that's perfect for autonomous, man. It's look, I'm setting the car to take you here, and that's it.
Well, and then couldn't you do a recall thing? If, hey, you're ending up late for your curfew, so you hijack the car and tell it to come back home?
I guess, but what if it comes back without the kid?
Well, no, the kid gets a warning. Car's leaving in 5 minutes, whether you're in it or not. So if you're not in it, there's going to be
If you're not in it, I'm coming back with the car.
Yes. So that's when the kid's panicking, cleaning up the chalupa hot sauce spill.
Mom, the car spilled the hot sauce.
Yeah, it wasn't my fault. You know what else spilled the hot sauce?
How does that work? Go ahead.
Amazon.
Amazon spilled the hot sauce?
That was sort of I don't know word.
It was a segue.
Well, no, it wasn't really a segue because I'm not on a scooter with two wheels.
This Amazon pullback is so dumb. I'm going on record as saying it's dumb. I don't agree with your friends that just buy every dip, but this is a dip you buy.
It's a tasty dip.
That's my stance.
All right. It pulled back to essentially 1,000 where it was. This is just pulling back to the prior breakout zone, just slightly below it.
On the weekly?
Yeah. I mean, you can even see it's going to somewhat fill some of this gap, but they missed. Let's see. They exceeded revenue, 37.95 versus 37.2 billion. Earnings per share was the big miss, coming in at 40 cents versus expectations of $1.42. They expect net sales for third quarter 2017 to grow between 20 and 28% versus 2016. What else do they say? Their operating income is expected to be between a loss of $400 million and possible gain of $300 million. That's a pretty wide swing. That's a $700 million swing compared with $575 million in third quarter 2016. I think their web service AWS was also. They're still making a lot of money, but their margins are getting tighter in that, which people didn't like also.
Let's put this in perspective. Amazon made their first profit. They reported their first annual net profit in January of 2004. Okay. So putting that in perspective, that's when the stock was basically, where was it in January of 2004? Let's say it was about, and yes, I'm looking at that right now. I closed at 51.96. It closed at $51.96. So if you were one of those people saying, Amazon doesn't make a profit, why would you buy that stock? In the months prior, like let's just look at January 2003, right? And this is not the way that you would normally look at a stock, but Amazon to me, honestly, is different. So January of 2003, Amazon was at, wait for it, $21.78. So essentially doubled on its way to a profit. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that's going to double. Past performance is not indicative of future results. But for Amazon to swing to a loss when online retail is still only 8% of total retail, and people would, for me, is a permanent buy and hold. Till something really bad happens, till Bezos gets caught with, in a Thailand motel with a rodent. I don't know. I mean, it's got to be something really crazy for Amazon to not be a long-term buy for me. I'd buy Amazon all the way down to about $850. I really would.
Okay.
Then I'd start to work.
I think you're going to get that opportunity at some point.
Yeah, you might be right. Again, for it to sell off because it swung to a net loss, they've done this before. They manage this. They master this. All you have to do is look at, like when you look at Amazon, would you say that Amazon is a technology stock? What would you call it? Would you call it technology or would you call it retail?
I don't know what it is anymore because I think I'd have to still lump it in with technology because
I would too, because of the cloud, right?
Most of their revenue is driven by their web services.
Yeah. So, and web services, they're just launching web services like in China, right? It's just launching. So when you look at Amazon versus the sector, is it overpriced? The technology sector's price to earnings ratio is about 12.2.
What's Amazon's price?
189.64.
Oh, I have 190.21.
Okay, so great. There you go. I mean, it is at an insane valuation. Even their PEG ratio is 5.6. That's really high. It's just, you don't look at Amazon the way you look at everything else, because if you did, you would be shorted at $53.
Amazon should get into healthcare and help fix that. They could probably do.
Well, they're doing it.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. They made a hire that people are wondering about now. There's some. I got to find that story because we should actually talk about it. But Amazon hired some sort of healthcare professional, and it was like a really hush-hush kind of hire. Let's see, Amazon healthcare hire. Let's see if I can find that. But it was a story this week. Amazon hires Box VP Missy Krasner to beef up health division. That's a July 20th story. Missy Krasner has been at Box since 2013, helping to build the cloud storage company's health product. So Box had a health product, and they hired Missy Krasner away. Amazon did in July. So they're absolutely trying to do the Amazon model. I don't know if it's just prescription drugs, if it's healthcare entirely, or I don't know what it is, but they're obviously after that market, and that's a great market for them to go into. Prescription drugs are a great market. I don't know about healthcare.
Yeah, capitalism has to now start weighing in on this healthcare debate because these knuckleheads in D.C.
Disgraceful.
Can't figure anything out.
It's disgraceful. It's freaking stupid. I mean, I can't even talk about it.
Except for this one guy up there, but that's a different story.
Thank God this is not a political podcast, because I couldn't even have that. I literally couldn't even. You know how long I go on oil? Forget about it.
Forget about it.
Forget about it.
You know what's interesting? Speaking of Amazon, when it does have its bigger pullbacks, every so often, it generally returns close or around to the 50-month exponential moving average.
It goes where, Mike? I'm sorry.
It generally returns to the area of the 50-month exponential moving average.
But it has a pullback?
When it has a major pullback?
It's close. Came close, didn't it?
No. I mean, the 50-month exponential is right now 866. So,
see, what is wrong with my charts? Because I've got a moving 50. You're on a weekly or a daily?
Week. Sorry, I mean week.
Oh, okay. That's what's
for
wrong.
the week.
You have it where?
Right now.
I got 866.
Now, this is going to keep this. It rises every week, but
yeah, no, I know. But do you have it right now? I just want to check if I have the right one. 866 or so.
866.35.
Yeah, we got the same one. Finally.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. If it could easily drop back to that if we have a market pullback. You know.
It has a similar reaction on the daily chart. I mean, granted, it breaks the 50 a lot, but it's generally rises from it. Like in this uptrend, it's risen from it. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times so far. And it came fairly close to it. Not quite, but I mean, the low of the move yesterday was 1,001, and it's at 990.75 on the daily.
Yep. No, so that's where I'm saying, it's still very tradable to me. This would not be in anything. I agree. Amazon's not going away, but I think at some point we will see a substantial pullback in it.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely euphoric. And, you look at that, again, you look at that PE ratio, and it's like, that argues for PE ratios to be considered silly, really. Because it's like, it's way overpriced versus the sector. What does the PE ratio mean? The most successful stocks are always overpriced versus the sector, looking at PE. So if you want to be involved in a stock that's going to outperform the sector, it's also going to outperform on a PE basis.
Well, that's what you're paying for the future's earning growth, right?
Right. You're absolutely.
It's just at some point it can get to the point where your future's earning growth is not going to catch up. That's where some of these get into the. I mean, look at what's Netflix now. If you were talking about Netflix versus Amazon, I'd be buying Amazon at a PE of 190 versus Netflix of a PE of 238.
Netflix is only good as their last show. That's the reality.
Right.
And they pay so much for content now. Their cash flow's burning through everything. So that's where I'd gladly pay a 190 PE to Amazon versus 238 to Netflix.
Thank you.
What about Google?
What about
Alphabet? Sorry.
Please call it Alphabet. By the way, back to Netflix.
It's because their symbols still, for their Class C is GOOG, and for the Class A is GOOGL. I can't call it Alphabet when it's Google.
I know. I don't know why they did that change. Just a real quick back to Netflix for 1 second. Not only is their PE in the 200s, but their sector is lower than Amazon's sector. So technology sector is 12.2, and the sector, Netflix sector, which, what sector is it? What sector would you call it? Entertainment? I don't know. 9.83. So not only is it, does it have a higher PE than Amazon, but it has a higher P relative to its sector, which is funny.
So what did you see Google's earnings?
No, oddly enough, I mean, I heard them when they came out, but oddly enough, I didn't pay too much attention to earnings this week.
The earnings per share came in $8.90, expectations $8.25, revenue $26.01 billion versus expectations of $25.64. Their quarterly profit fell by 28% because of this $2.7 billion fine from European regulators that we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that they wrote down that one-time write down.
Didn't their cost per click fall pretty bad? Did you find that?
I think that did. It fell.
Here, I'll look that up while you do the rest.
So the people weren't terribly happy. They've dropped down from 1,000 to right now they're trading 953. So that was a nice 5% pullback. How do they look on the weekly chart?
Cost per click down 23%. That's a big number.
I would not want to if Google gets a close. There's a very key low. If Google gets a close below 915, that's not a good sign for Google. So meaning not a good sign. I think we then pull back to maybe the 875 area first. So that's something to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, here it is. Alphabet's aggregate cost per click dropped 23% year over year and 6% quarter over quarter, which both came in weaker than consensus estimates of 15.8 and 5.6 respectively. That's from NASDAQ, NASDAQ.com. I'd say that's reliable. That's real news.
What's Alphabet's price to earnings? Just curious.
Hang on, let me look it up. Let's see.
I look to fundamentals like that's interesting, because I'm a technical trader.
Yeah, 31.6 versus a sector, which oddly enough is the same sector as Netflix, IT, information technology, versus a sector of 9.83. You wanted the A shares, right?
Huh?
Basically the same. Google L is 32.2.
Yeah, they're roughly going to be in the same ballpark. Facebook, another earnings, that hit all our upside targets too. It actually blew through our upside targets that we did on our Path Chat stocks. Right now it's trading at my next scan level higher, which is 172.15, which it traded at earlier today, and now it's at 171.82. So that's hit all the GAN projections higher, but their earnings per share, 132 versus expectations of 113. Second quarter revenue, 9.32 billion versus 9.2 billion expected. Daily active users, which you talked about before, 1.32 billion. Meet expectations of 1.32 billion. This was a nice rotation off the daily R zone back up to GAN level projections higher.
They reached 2 billion people now, didn't they?
Yep, 2 billion. That's what they're saying.
That's what they're saying. Last was 1.6.
So we have 400 million more fake Facebook accounts.
Facebook's going to be an interesting story to me because Facebook, I don't know what they do about. I mean, you have 2 billion people on your platform, and we know, it's not going to be a billion of them that are fake, right? But you have 2 billion people have multiple accounts, people have accounts for their businesses, and so on. What ends this Facebook thing? It's going to be something like it's going to be a societal change of some sort. Otherwise, how do you not own Facebook as well? Similar to Amazon. I mean, it's 2 billion people.
Yep.
I mean, at the end of the day, you want companies to have paying clients at some point, but 2 billion people is 2 billion people. It's not like Twitter where it's 300 million. And you got to wonder how they're going to monetize that. This is 2 billion people. With Facebook, you could theoretically get through to 2 billion people. It's crazy.
Well, you brought up Twitter. They earnings per share 12 cents versus 5 cents expected. Revenue 574 versus 536 expected. Now, where they got hit was monthly active users 328 million versus 329 million expected. So their stock took a pretty big drop. Before earnings, they were trading up around 2062. Now they're trading 1715.
Do the ads that show up on Facebook for you, Mike, have any relevance to your life? The suggested ads?
Hit or miss.
Yeah, it's like, for me, it's like 1% I'll actually go, oh, I'm interested in this promotion.
Some things, I was on Facebook this morning and they had a bunch of stuff with like boating stuff.
Boaty McBoatface, they listen to the show.
But I don't search for boats. I don't own a boat. I don't get on boats. I don't even have friends with boats. You still around, Bob?
Yeah, I'm here. You got an Ethereum move?
Well, it hit the full target on that trend line trade.
Mm-hmm.
So Bitcoin hit all its targets. Ethereum hit its targets, which was in the opposite direction. Oh, Litecoin's also going to hit its full targets. This is nice. This is going to be really nice. We're going to have at least 3 updates.
Good.
Today or this weekend. I should probably pump them out today because stuff slows down over the weekend. Although Bitcoin with the hard fork coming August 1st is going to be interesting. Yeah, maybe I'll do a hard fork video this weekend. I don't really even know what's going to happen with it. It's I know we're going to hard fork, but then who knows?
Yeah, but just be honest.
Just explain what it is.
Yeah.
Because like you've mentioned it in clips, and we talked about it in the podcast.
I'm going to mention it again today in this podcast because now it's pretty much a done deal. It's going to hard fork.
It's all over Reddit. Reddit is just, they're panicking about this hard fork.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing, it's like you mentioned in the videos and you say because of this hard fork, and then you say you explained it in the podcast as to what it is, but there's a bunch of people that fall through the cracks there. So you should just do a hard fork video. So here, 3 minutes. This is what the hard fork is. This is what it means. It could go this way. It could go that way. Thank you very much.
And then talk about the McDonald's fork and what it's priced at.
It's a Ferrari.
Ferrari. I love that name.
What you brought up McDonald's. McDonald's had earnings this week.
I want to eat at McDonald's so bad, but I'm saving it.
Huh?
I want to eat at McDonald's so bad, but I always remember how bad it makes me feel now because I'm not addicted to it anymore. So, like, once I go in, I know that I've got a day and a half of pain. I don't want it, but I want the McDonald's so bad. By the way, I used to laugh at the idea that, not laugh, that's not the right word. I used to kind of roll my eyes at the idea that addiction was a disease. And then I look at some of my food addictions, and now I know what they're going to do to me, and I do them anyway. And I have no room to speak to anyone that has any sort of an addiction.
So that in your wardrobe.
Thank you. I mean, I know what the McDonald's food is going to do to my innards, and I'm like kind of planning a trip there anyway, because I need to have a Big Mac. I need to have a bite of that perfect bite where you get cheese, bread, and special sauce and just the right amount of meat.
Oh, you're saying you didn't contribute to McDonald's second?
I did not.
Earnings.
I didn't.
Their revenue beat $6.05 billion versus $5.96 billion expected. Earnings per share came in 170 versus expectations of 162. Their second quarter U.S. comparable sales up 3.9% versus expectations of 3.2, and you had nothing to do with it.
Nope. I'm going to soon. And when I go, I'll have to do the thing that I always do, which is a quarter pounder with cheese, a double cheeseburger, and a Big Mac.
Oh.
That might have something to do with why it racks my innards. It may not actually be the food. It may be the...
And some moist wipes.
It's like I finish them and I go, and scene. And I'm done.
You really order all that?
Yeah, you know why? Because I got to have that special sauce cheese bread mix with the right amount of lettuce and right amount of meat. And that usually comes toward the end when you've squeezed all the special sauce into one end of the Big Mac. The good thing is now they have that mini Mac or whatever it is, the baby Mac. So I might be able to get satisfaction from that. So I'll probably order that. Then I'm a huge fan of putting French fries in a quarter pounder. I just like that. So I got to have that. And then honestly, I just love it. One time it happened by accident and I never ate it another way again. This is a regular quarter pounder with cheese, and I put a layer of fries or two, sometimes a layer and a half, on the sandwich. It's freaking great. And then my favorite McDonald's sandwich is actually their double cheeseburger.
Well, there you have the McDonald's update from Foodie Bob. It ran up. Wow. When they announced their earnings,
I literally need to get a drool rag right now.
It ran up from 155 area to 159.98, 160. Now it's all the way back down to 155.36. McDonald's is looking very toppy to me.
Speaking of toppings, you put the French fries on the quarter pounder. It's the best topping ever. I wonder often what McDonald's is going to do now that they've run their breakfast all day because breakfast all day absolutely rocketed the stock, and just they killed it in profits after that. When they went with breakfast all day, their revenues went up, their same store sales went up, everything went really, really well after that. And it's like, what's the next trick there? Like, what's the next thing they're going to be able to do, short of being able to announce to the world that they have spent their many multi-billions of dollars to make the double cheeseburger healthy and taste exactly the same with no chemicals. Is that possible? No? All right, moving on.
I don't know.
If that announcement ever came out, you guys would never see me again.
Really?
I once ate 21 McDonald's cheeseburgers on the trading floor.
As a bet?
No. What they would do for us once in a while, 17 Burger King cheeseburgers. What they would do for us every once in a while, we had brokers in the pit, and we'd give them orders, and they'd fill the orders. And if we had a really good day, they'd go, "Guys want lunch? Where do you want it from?" And you pick any place within the area. And every once in a while, one of the guys at my desk would say McDonald's, and they were very easy to sneak on the trading floor because of their bags with the handles. And you could smash a McDonald's cheeseburger and it still tasted the same. So a guy'd take the bag with the handles and strap it to his back and pull his coat real tight, and the security couldn't see you sneak in the burgers. So he would bring up to our desk, of which there was like 7 or 8 of us at the desk, a bag of about 50 cheeseburgers. They'd call McDonald's ahead and say, "We need 50 cheeseburgers." And they would sneak them up a little at a time. And so they would just sit at the desk, and they don't spoil, right? You could eat one a month later. It could be kept in 80 degrees. It's still good. And so literally we'd start lunch at 10 o'clock, and we were usually there till about 2:30 or 3, because we got there at 6. So lunch would start at 10:30, right when McDonald's would make them. The McDonald's close to the exchange actually started lunch earlier because of all the traders around who started work earlier. So 10 o'clock we would get them, 10:30, and you'd be slowly eating them. And I remember one time they split them up, and they put a bag of 21 by me. And I just, at the end of the day, I'm like, well, there's one left. I might as well eat it.
Those were the days. Yeah, that was after your food competition award days, right?
That was, yes. I won the pizza eating contest in college. I'm very slim for a massive fat guy.
I'm tired of these headlines.
What headlines, Mikey?
Bitcoin is about to soar, but you must act by August 1st to get in. What?
By the way, we should talk about McAfee's comment.
Oh, about
you guys, Stafford, did you see that?
No.
You know the guy, the McAfee software guy?
I know McAfee real well, yeah.
He's a nut job.
I love him.
He's not an official nut job, but...
He's an official nut job at this point.
Where does he live? Doesn't he live on an island somewhere surrounded by guns and Rottweilers or something?
I don't know. I don't track where people live.
But you know what I mean. I mean, he's a nut job. He lives like on his own island or something.
Was a nut job. So, what did he say, Bob?
Can I say it?
Well, you can say where does he think Bitcoin's going?
500,000. And the exact quote is, Stafford, could you insert a beep or a bleep?
Yep.
In this show or no?
Yep.
Cybersecurity legend. I will eat my d. I lose $500,000 Bitcoin bet. So the exact quote that he supposedly said. He might have tweeted it. I don't know. But the exact quote is, I will eat my d on national television if Bitcoin doesn't reach $500,000.
That sounds like Scaramucci talking about Steve Bannon.
Yeah, he says Bitcoin is the new gold. And
how is Bitcoin the new gold?
Well, he says, by the way, he says within 3 years. So it is a bargain right now at what, Mike? Where's it at?
Where is it? 2,900. I just closed down the chart when you
bargain.
On which exchange?
Yeah, I don't care. What's the difference? If it's 500,000, it could be 498 on one.
Well, yeah, because all the different, you can trade on a bunch of different exchanges, and there is arbitrage opportunities, but that's hard to take advantages because of the settlement time. But right now, it's trading on one of the exchanges I work with, 27.78. Exactly the target I called out yesterday.
Wow.
Sitting right on the line. Speaking of sitting on the line, can you give me a crude update?
Yeah, I can do that, Mike.
Wasn't there a huge draw this
What's
week?
up?
Wasn't there a big draw?
Yeah, there was a big draw on crude oil. It's funny now because something that we've talked about on the podcast, and I'm going back and forth on TV because on TV you kind of have to go, you just kind of have to go with what's going to happen short term because they say, hey, what's going to happen today? That's what they say. So crude stocks in Wednesday's EIA report, big draw on both crude and gasoline. 7.2 million barrels for the week ending July 21st. It was expected at 2.6 million barrels. Combine that with the Saudis said they would limit oil exports to 6.6 million barrels per day in August. Now that's down about 1 million barrels a day. So why is that different? Well, because it doesn't really matter what the Saudis produce if they leave them in storage tanks. I mean, crude doesn't really spoil. So if they leave them in storage tanks and don't export them, they don't go into the market. So crude actually got above 49, reaching a high. My chart's updating? Yeah, reaching a high of 49.78 today. I've got some small resistance of 49.92. It's a significant level. But anyway, crude is, you combine what the Saudis said with the draws that we're finally getting and the slowdown in rig counts, and you end up in a situation where crude has now rallied the last 5 days. When you look at a weekly chart on crude oil, this is going to be its third week up in the last 6, but it far outweighs the moves that we've gotten in any of those other weeks. So crude oil's finally turning around. Now, the thing about it is it'll take a little while, but this kind of a move up into the 50s will get U.S. production sparked again. U.S. production is definitely turning down. Rig counts, like I mentioned, we had a single-digit rig count 2 weeks ago. We had negative oil rig last week, only by 1, but it was still negative. First negative one in God, it's got to be 28, 30 weeks, something like that. I mean, don't quote me on how long, but it's been a long time. But you've seen the trajectory, the rig counts go down, and as I've mentioned before in the podcast, you've seen the productivity of wells drop. Now, with shale oil wells, horizontal drilling wells, fracking, whatever term you want to use, their peak production happens really fast versus traditional wells, which is a much slower draw to peak production, much slower build, rather, to peak production. With shale and horizontal rigs, it happens quickly. Now, that doesn't mean the rig dries out, but the productivity of the well falls off a cliff, and then it just continues to go on for a little while. So horizontal frackers and drillers have to have capital expenditure to find new wells and drill new wells, and they haven't been doing that with crude oil down in the low 40s or mid 40s. So this spike is caused in part by the slow falling off of U.S. production, but it doesn't change the trajectory. The EIA still predicts that the U.S. is going to break a record for production in 2017 and 2018, jumping above that 9.7 million barrel threshold, and that's actually from the 70s, I believe. It's not recent. The recent threshold was closer to 9.5. So even though the EIA thinks that U.S. production is going to hit a record, we're still getting this short-term spike in the front month. That's it with crude oil. I think crude oil will go up to the top of the range. That's not a technical call. I think in the short term, Mike can take a look at it if he has time, but we'll probably get to about 51 in the short term. But in the medium term, I think we probably test the higher end of that range.
Gotcha. So in the well, this is in the fraud corner, not really the corner, because I combined going to zero and fraud corner, but these things aren't going to zero. Fraud corner: German car makers can't catch a break as next scandal looms large. I guess what we have, Der Spiegel printed an article that the biggest car manufacturers, Daimler, Chrysler, BMW, AG, and Volkswagen, as well as Volkswagen's Audi and Porsche brands, may have colluded for decades on technology, which can also tie into all this diesel stuff. So there was behind-the-scenes collusion with these technology, 200 employees and 60 working groups in areas including auto development, gasoline and diesel motors, brakes and transmissions. There was all this behind-the-scenes collusion. And then this pissed off BMW. BMW halts project talks after Daimler blew the whistle. So they're blaming Daimler for this leak to Der Spiegel in this article and everything. So they're like, nah, we think we're not going to be working as much with you. And then in other BMW news, this is fascinating because this then we'll get into the Tesla segment. But the BMW Group announces next step in electrification strategy. Electrification is now one of the central pillars of the BMW's group corporate strategy. All brands and model series can be electrified with a full electric or plug-in hybrid drivetrain being offered in addition to the combustion engine option starting in about 2020. So they're going to make sure all their cars are capable of, either gasoline, hybrid, or electric, all basically on the same platform. And there's going to be 3 different potential engine models. So they're like going all in on the electrification thing.
Yeah, that's biggest threat to Tesla.
Yep. So they've just announced their, let's see. By
How do the cars look?
Huh?
How do the cars look?
BMWs look pretty good.
Yeah.
But think about it. Whatever it's going to be, whether you want a gas motor in it or an electric motor or a hybrid, it's going to look the same. Mm-hmm. It's just going to be, hey, I want the electric version or I want the hybrid version. The BMW Group expects electrified vehicles to account for between 15 and 25% of sales. Incentives and charging infrastructure will play a major role in determining the scale of electrification from market to market. Although I was just reading today with Volkswagen is going 200 million into electrifying a whole charging network in California. So that's pretty interesting also. That's on a side note, but that ties into, did you see Elon's stuff?
I wait for the podcast for Elon.
Huh?
I wait for the podcast to Elon.
All right. First of all, now people are having watching parties tonight. This is being recorded on a Friday. 8:45 Pacific time, they're going to do the rollout of the Model 3, the first deliveries of the first 30.
Okay.
So, and Elon, somebody gifted Elon the first one. So he gets to hand the first Model 3 keys to himself. The other 29 copies will go to Tesla employees or current owners of Tesla EVs. They're still expect to ship 100 Models 3 next month, around 1,500 in September, and then they want to do 10,000 per week by December. So we've talked about that before, but he's tweeting out, I don't even know why this was a big deal, but so many sites made a big deal. Did you see his little Instagram video of testing the Boring Company car elevator? Did you see it?
No.
Go watch it. It's in the show notes. Go watch it real quick.
It's dumb.
People are going gog over it. It's a friggin' car elevator that lowers a car. Dude, we've had car elevators for years.
Decades.
I mean, you have whole self-parking garages over in Asia that you drop your car off and the thing takes it, puts it in an elevator, and like parks it in a Hot Wheels slot on a different floor. I mean, and he's tweeting like, look what I'm testing, the car elevator that takes the car underground to my tunnel. I'm sorry. It's like you should be talking about your Model 3. People are getting very antsy right now because unless you're in the first 30, you've heard nothing where you stand with getting your car. You've plunked down your $1,000. You don't know when to expect it, what options. Who's going to buy a car? They don't even know what options are available on it.
Isn't this Elon's plan, though, is to talk down the Model 3 because he can't fill the orders, so it's about not talking about it?
I think he's
having a party to give the first 30 away. It doesn't seem like he's not talking about it, does it?
Well, those are for the people that are going to get them. It's just like promoting it on Twitter to the unwashed masses.
Who knows? But it's going to be interesting because it's just.
I was sitting having lunch with a friend of mine. I want to say 12 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. And I'm not going to say what city I was in, and I'm not going to say who he is, but he was building a high-end condo building that had a vehicle elevator in it, and it had fobs. So the people literally it was actually really cool. Each unit was several $1 million, and there was only like 10 units in the building. And he had sold one to Oprah and one to Michael Jackson, like pre-sold. I'm sorry, Michael Jordan. Anyway, he said you pull in with your car, and the fob in the elevator reads the fob in your car and takes you to your unit. And then you park your car in your own personal garage, and then one of the walls could be retracted to show your car. So like if you had an actual beautiful show car and you wanted to be part of the decor in your house, you could retract one of the walls, which put your car on display in your personal garage. So the garage literally was decked out, drywalled, ceiling, just like the house. And so I don't know why that Instagram would be anything.
I know, but they have those all over Singapore now in the high end. Exactly what you're saying. That's one of the luxury things in Singapore, where your car gets brought up to your apartment in your own luxury lift, and it can literally be displayed. Mm. So they I don't know why he's Instagramming that stuff out and tweeting it out when he's got all this other stuff. This was from an internal something leaked. I saw this on a few. I can't verify it, but Tesla was supposed to have 10 solar roof installs in June and 35 in July. So far, 0. Remember?
Let's take a look at whether Tesla is overpriced or underpriced.
Well, they have
versus the sector.
That's the Tesla. Oh, what is it, Bob?
Well, the sector.
We know.
For some reason, the website I use doesn't have their PE data on it, but
do they have a PE?
They're listed as capital goods in the sector, and the sector is 37.1. Let's see.
Huh? What the?
What's wrong?
Damn Yahoo Finance. Let's see. PE ratio, negative 70.68.
Exactly. That's why this website has no data. I don't think it's
but you can't actually have a
you can't actually have a negative PE ratio.
Yeah, so that's what I've said. They don't have a PE ratio because you have to have earnings. You actually have to make some money.
Oh my God.
Oh God. This is so now I think we've beat Tesla to death. So people are having watching parties though. Like I'm not staying up to have a watching party to watch a stupid Model 3. I think we can switch over to cryptos. There's in big news this week, we've talked about those initial coin offerings. SEC's starting to rule on initial coin offerings, and they're looking to crack down on them. Concludes the tokens are subject to securities laws.
Wait a minute. What?
We've talked about the initial coin offering with all these firms this week. SEC's cracking down on initial coin offerings. Concludes tokens are subject to securities laws.
Wow.
So they're gonna be regulated in this country.
So that means you can't crowdfund them?
Well, you have to go through proper channels to do. If you're going to have an initial coin offering, you're going to have to properly register and do all the paperwork as per the SEC now.
Wow.
So, I mean, it doesn't affect anybody who's doing what I think you'll have a lot of these initial coin offerings that just aren't able to participate in this country.
All right.
And if you do figure out a way to participate in them, even as an investor, you could be circumventing SEC rules. It's going to get very interesting. So now that's only for the initial coin offerings, which is that subset of the cryptocurrencies, which is being used to raise money, where you can take an ICO isn't technically a cryptocurrency, but it can be turned into, it can be exchanged back and forth for the cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
But we're going to have to keep an eye on that because that will affect cryptocurrencies to a certain extent in this country. And I think it's just going to, if they're starting with the ICOs, there's going to be regulation into trading and investing into the cryptocurrencies very soon in this country.
I just don't understand that. I still am just completely mentally detached from the idea that a currency that was actually at the heart of cryptocurrencies is that they're not controlled by governments, are somehow going to be controlled by governments anyway.
Well, they're going to be regulated.
Sure. I mean, controlled. Right? What if you regulate a price on it?
I don't think they're going to regulate the price. I
don't think that's in their mind right now. But, again, as you get more and more toward electronics, governments become, the whole move away from cash is about tracking, right? It's about tracking you. It's about knowing who you are. It's about getting rid of black market. I mean, if governments were to completely do away with fiat cash, people would not really be able to do anything black market, right? Because everything would be tracked. And Bitcoin, not just Bitcoin, but cryptocurrency solves that problem. You cannot necessarily be as easily controlled by government if you're in cryptos. If cryptos become widely accepted and widely used. So I could see a slippery slope where they start with regulating ICOs, and I'm not against that. I mean, those things are crazy. ICOs have been hacked. All kinds of crazy things have happened. But down the road, I could see them regulating a price. I could see them say that cryptocurrencies cannot be more than X to the dollar or Y to the dollar, like actually pegging them through regulation.
That would be interesting.
That would be so interesting.
I mean, if I think the governments will start issuing their own cryptocurrencies and then just outlaw trading in other cryptos.
Yeah, there you go. It's an easier way to do it, I guess.
That's what I think will happen first. They'll say, okay, we're good. All right, we're going to go all digital asset based. So guess what? You can't trade your Bitcoin anymore. You got to convert it to our currency. You got 30 days. And if you're caught with Bitcoin or whatever after this certain date, you're in violation. It can get confiscated. You can go to jail. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's sort of like a gold confiscation way back when. You can't own it. You can convert it. You got to turn it in, and we'll give you the new U.S. dollar crypto.
That's it, right? I mean, gold you could hide. Can't hide a crypto.
Right. Yeah. Gold, you can't hide a crypto because you can't dig a hole in your backyard.
Right.
So
it's funny. Am I reading the notes right as to say that they want quantitative easing on Bitcoin Cash? And they want a larger data cap. Don't they mean they want to print more Bitcoins?
Will the Fed ever add Bitcoin or other altcoins to the balance sheet?
That's interesting.
I don't know. Where were you reading that in the... the larger data. This is the hard fork I'm talking about because people thought, let me get into this. This is really important. We have to cover this in depth because it can affect a lot of people. Everybody thought that the fork in Bitcoin had been averted about a week ago. But now people backing a new cryptocurrency called Bitcoin Cash, they've formally announced that the expected compromise between the warring factions is dead. The fork will begin on August 1st. So
coming up.
Let's get into some details. So originally Bitcoin had data caps, defined limits on how much the network can process every 10 minutes. Then that was to keep a check on the speed of its growth and to serve as a security measure against cyber attacks. But now it's become very frustrating for a lot of Bitcoin miners because they can only mine a certain amount of the cryptocurrency and transactions can only happen in a certain speed. So they want that to be upped, which we talked about with SegWit and SegWit 2 times. And in recent weeks, traders have had to face up to 7 hours of wait times for a single transaction. So now the supporters of the new Bitcoin Cash want a larger data cap on blocks, which means they want to up the data caps. So that means more coins can be mined and more transactions are being processed in a short amount of time. Now the BCC team, or the Bitcoin Cash team, is mainly made up of the big mining investors and entrepreneurs in Asia. and a lot of it's in China because they have these huge mining factories. Now you have the old school Bitcoin team. These are the core developers, and this is a decentralized group of programmers that maintain the software behind the Bitcoin. They're opposed to increasing the data cap per block. The biggest argument they have against the increase is that it would put smaller miners at a disadvantage against the mega miners in China. So the mega miners want to up the rates and everything so they can mine faster, they can make more Bitcoin. The smaller decentralized people, a lot of smaller like mom and pop miners and some of these core developers who do mine also, who don't have these big government subsidied farms, for electricity, because it takes a lot of electricity to mine Bitcoin at this point, don't want that. So they're the core group. So there was the thought that they'd come to a compromise with this SegWit, but that's not going to happen. So it looks like Bitcoin Cash is going to break off and it's going to increase its block size to about 8 megabytes, and leave future room for increases. This will speed up their transaction times starting sometime on August 1st, I think at like 12:20. I don't remember what time zone that's in. What's key for people, if you have Bitcoin though, because you should get your keys and everything else. You want to be in charge of your Bitcoin before this happens. Because, let's see. Let me give you some details here. Bitcoin Cash organizers have also assured everyone they will immediately be able to convert their Bitcoins into the equivalent of Bitcoin Cash, but there's a catch. If your Bitcoins are stored in a third-party exchange, you'll have to talk to them about the implementation. So what you want to do, if you're storing Bitcoins in any third-party exchange, you want to take control of your private keys before this August 1st launch. So you'll want to go get your own private keys and maintain your control over those private keys, because then you can decide whether you want to fork off into Bitcoin Cash or stay with the Bitcoin core.
Fork off.
What?
This is all like turbo encabulator talk.
Well, it's important because if that last bit, and you don't have to understand everything that's going to happen, because some ways we don't know exactly what it's going to mean. They're pricing the futures now at Bitcoin Cash roughly at 400 when we talked about Bitcoin trading 2,600. What's really important is you have control over your Bitcoin private keys, so you can access them and you can decide if you want to convert them or you want to stay with the original Bitcoin or you want to go to the Bitcoin Cash. That's what's really important, and it is going to affect people who are trading it or just investing in it. So that's really a public service announcement to go figure out how this is going to affect you, and don't just take it for granted that it's going to just be transparent and everything's going to work out. You want to have the flexibility of deciding after this hard fork occurs which path you want to take. And they're both going to be tradable. So,
Stafford, you got your show title. Fork off. Go fork yourself.
Well,
Bitcoin.
It would have to be Bitcoin forking off.
Go fork yourself, Bitcoin.
Fork off Bitcoin?
Go fork yourself, Bitcoin. Forking jerk.
All right. So that's all my crypto stuff.
Love cryptos.
Yeah, because everybody loves cryptos, it seems.
How about that Scaramucci, huh? That Italian, huh? What do you think of that, huh?
I don't know why anyone was shocked that an Italian went on an expletive-laden tirade.
I know.
Why would that be weird? A New York Italian.
I just turned the sound down and I can understand what he's saying by his hand movements.
I mean, how was that shocking?
He's great.
Somebody named Scaramucci cussed.
That's actually not where I was going with the Trump segment.
Crowd collectively yawns.
He's Italian. I had to bring it up.
Oh, I love the guy. He should be president.
Oh, God, please help.
President Scaramucci. I'm already launching Scaramucci 2016 or 2020. I'm going to be the campaign fucking manager of that fucking thing. All right, Mike, what do you got?
Well, it just ties in, with the Fed because Trump said Yellen's absolutely in the running to stay on his Fed chair. I like her. I like her demeanor. I think she's done a good job, he said. I'd like to see rates stay low. She's historically been a low interest rate person. He also confirmed that recurring rumors that Cohen is a top outside candidate, saying that former Goldman COO is also the top candidate to replace Yellen, if he is going to replace her. And there are 2 to 3 other people in the running for the Fed chair.
In President of the United States speak, that phrase means she's fired.
Sounds about right.
So I was going to say, who thinks Yellen's actually going to be in this position next year?
Yeah, I don't think so.
No.
Nope.
No.
And it's gone.
And it's gone.
So that's why I wanted to bring that up, because it's relevant to what we talk about.
Yes, it is.
As opposed to Scaramucci is.
What are we talking about?
What are you talking about now?
I didn't see that. Send me that.
Transgenders in the military.
Oh, I did see one who was in Chicago because they went down to Boys Town after that announcement and they interviewed somebody, and it was literally a 6'2" guy in a wig.
The rule is, if you can't pass, you can't dress.
I will say what I say about every one of these situations. You want to wear a wig and a dress, go ahead. Just don't get mad at me if I say, "What's up, dude?" Because I can't retrain my eyes. Can't do it.
The military is about killing, not dressing up. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I just think it was just
I don't think
the decision could have been made differently. In other words, he could have said they're welcome to serve, but they're not going to be given any special treatment.
No. Sexual dysphoria will get you kicked out of the military, like flat feet or something else. It's an illness.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you that it might be a mental illness, but you can't tell me every fucking Navy SEAL isn't mentally ill. Otherwise, they wouldn't do what they do. So that doesn't work for me. Just from a perspective of, there's been dozens, if not hundreds, of transgender people who've served and nobody got hurt. So it's not like flat feet, because flat feet means you can't run.
Yeah, but for me, I don't want my tax dollars to pay to invert somebody's penis into a pretend vagina.
That should be the ruling.
The
ruling is they can't serve in any capacity.
Well, once they're in, the government will pay for their reassignment.
Well, that should be changed. That I don't disagree with. I don't want to pay for that either. There's a lot of things I don't want to pay for that I pay for, but that's what should be the new ruling. The new ruling should be, serve if you want, but if you got a dick, you shower with the guys. If you still want to serve. You don't. We don't care. But it's just, to me, it's just common sense. Simple. You want to serve. You don't. We don't do anything special. Just like we don't correct flat feet.
Oh, there you go.
There you have it.
Well, what did the Fed do this week?
Nothing. Nothing of interest. Nothing at all.
They kept rates unchanged?
I'm going to tell you what the Fed did, because this actually is important to me, what the Fed did. They kept rates unchanged. They obviously didn't change anything about the current asset reinvestment program, because they're no longer buying assets, just asset reinvestment, right? What they did was point out to the market, and I think they've been trying to do this for a while, and I didn't notice it either. It's like I don't blame anybody for not noticing it. They basically pointed out to the market that for the first time ever, they have control over the long end as well. A certain amount of control that they've never had before, right? Where if they were to begin to shrink the balance sheet, right, they can push long-term rates. In the past, when the Fed's gone on rate hike cycles, we've always looked at the shape of the yield curve. So for those of you that don't know, if 5-year rates are at 1 and overnight rates, which is what the Fed controls, are at 1, then you draw a line from 1 to 1, and that's the yield curve. That would be a perfectly flat yield curve. Now, if 5-year rates are at 5% and the overnight rate is at 1%, and you draw a line from 1% to 5%, that is a steep yield curve. Okay, so just for very simple, made-up interest rates to try and illustrate what the yield curve is. So the Fed has never had a balance sheet that they needed to unwind and potentially sell, and now they do. And a lot of the duration of the things that they own are 2 years and longer. So they have 5-year bonds, and although they're corporates mostly, but they have 5-year bonds, and they have 10-year bonds, and they have 2-year bonds of different issuance, meaning some are corporates, some are treasuries. And when they stop buying these assets, which is what they're talking about doing, there's people out there, and I've heard this with my own ears, who say the Fed is going to start selling things. They're not going to start selling things. All they're talking about doing is stopping the reinvestment of things that have matured and expired. So when a 2-year bond expires or matures, they get the cash, and then they reinvest that into a similar bond. You know, they use the word security, but it's bond. It's a bond. So they're going to stop doing that. So they're not going to be selling anything, but they could. They could actually sell something. So for the first time ever, they have control over more than just the short end of the yield curve. And I think that's what they're trying to get the market to pick up on and understand. They're trying to say, you guys realize we have control over both ends for the first time ever. And they put more emphasis on the halting of the reinvestment of the money from expired securities than they did on the rate hike. And we haven't seen the yield curve steepen yet, but it might be starting today. We saw the bonds get above, the German Bund get above 55 basis points. I think it went to 58 basis points today. And we saw the 10-year note yield get back above 230. But we haven't seen the dollar strengthen. The dollar will strengthen on the short end of the curve, not the long end. So that's the interesting part of this statement, where this was supposed to be a complete nothing burger, and the market treated it like a complete nothing burger. But the Fed right now is hinting that they're going to start doing that in September. And the reason I say September is because most of the people who have unnamed sources in the Fed are starting to say September. So they're hinting that it's going to be September. And that to me is super, super interesting, even though they didn't really say anything. That's it.
So it was a pretty tasty burger.
Yeah, it's a pretty tasty nothing burger, which was a title of an article I wrote, actually. A pretty tasty nothing.
And we also have to touch on today, GDP second quarter came out 2.6 versus expectations of 2.7. Q1 GDP of 1.4 was revised lower down to 1.2. This is interesting. The core PCE was downward revised from 1.8 to 0.9 for the first quarter. For people who don't know, the core PCE price index is defined as personal consumption expenditures prices excluding food and energy prices. This price index measures the prices paid by consumers for goods and services without volatility caused by movements in food and energy prices to reveal underlying inflation trends. That's why the Fed watches that so much, and it was revised down. It was essentially cut in half. And other GDP revisions, there are a lot of GDP revisions. Now, 2014 GDP was revised from 2.4 to 2.6. So 2014 was stronger. 2015 from 2.6 to 2.9. So 2015.
Oh, he almost got his 3%.
He almost got his 3%, but he didn't. 2016, 1.6 to 1.5. So last year was lower. So that's what this tells me the Fed should have been tightening way early.
I agree. And you look at the CPI figures, the same thing. You know, you look at the CPI figures, we had a period last year where we had 4, maybe 5, I could look it up, but we had a bunch of CPI numbers above 2 year over year. And the Fed kept saying, well, it's an average. And they were so focused on the job market not improving yet. And the job market, I think, lags. So, I mean, I don't know. Perhaps what they normally look at was a little, has kind of reversed. I don't know. But here, let me open up my CPI thing. Let's see when that was. Anyway, last year we had more than one where CPI was higher than 2%. We had a 2.7 print last year. We had a 2.1, a 2.5, a 2.7, a 2.4, and a 2.2 year-over-year CPI. And yeah, they tightened into it, but that's when they needed to get more aggressive. And they should have been going a little bit sooner than that, I think, as Mike said, based on GDP figures. But there was an interesting part of GDP, an interesting positive part of GDP. This number was business spending was up 5.2%, and equipment spending up 8.2%. Those, to me, were the biggest positive takeaways in GDP. Otherwise, Mike mentioned it slightly underperformed. Nothing horrible, but it definitely slightly underperformed. So, yeah, I look at it as an as-expected number with a touch of weakness.
The World Economic Outlook updated their forecast for world, what am I going to say, world GDPs this week. And they revised the United States lower. They revised it, dropping it down to 2.1 for 2017 and 2.1 for 2018. So they shaved 0.2 off from 2017 and 0.4 off from 2018. That was sort of interesting. The euro area is 1.9 in 2017, 1.7 in 2018. So what looks strong? Is there anything what looks strong? What did I say? China. All right, they have China still below 7. So they have it 6.7 and 6.4. So they have China slowing down. The only thing really upticking is India. So that's what you have.
India is strong. Well, Europe is strong.
Huh?
The EU is strong.
It is?
Yeah.
At 1.9 and 1.7?
It's on the upswing. It's not on the downswing. For the first time ever, we actually have global growth. Before it was the U.S. trying to pull everything up.
They have this year, but then they're revising it actually. Well, they have it slightly strong. They have 1.7 for 2018, but that's less than their projection for this year at 1.9. So they actually
but what they are is they're on the upswing that we saw last year. So they'll probably they'll get good numbers coming through, and then they'll have their downswing because these things aren't sustainable in the current environment, in my opinion, just like in the U.S. is dipping. Now, again, this is all being called seasonal factors, not just by the Fed. But I saw a guy from Morgan Stanley this morning. He goes, of course, second quarter's been slow seasonally. So this is still all being called seasonal. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see. We've got, if you look at the breakdown of GDP and CPI, the strongest numbers have been, since the crisis, have been in the third and fourth quarter. So we'll see.
I really hope that that's not what it's going to look like.
What is that, dude?
That's the photo from today. They're testing the Model 3 in New Zealand for winter stuff.
Yeah.
That's supposedly the test shot of it.
No, that is an ugly car. That is one ugly car.
This is classic. Somebody then tweeted out this side by side with it.
Let me guess. It's an egg.
No, that's a.
It's a Dodge Neon from 1997.
It does kind of look like a Beretta that somebody sat on.
Oh gosh, this is if that's the Model 3, it looks so ugly.
It's so bad.
What was this? North Korea just fired another missile.
Nice of them.
Yeah. Oh, look, our VIX 1091.
Yeah, there we go. It's just screaming higher.
It's screaming higher.
I can't have a chart up. What's the NASDAQ doing?
What's the NASDAQ doing?
It's slightly higher.
Nah, well, I love the rotation zone.
I do too.
It came down yesterday and found support directly at the 21 exponential. Today, sold off directly to the exponential. It's still down for today, but it's rallying up. It's the dip buyers coming in. It's buy the dip.
How do you trade VIX? I mean, can you trade that on like an E-Trade account for consumers?
You can trade the options.
Yeah.
Oh, the
VIX options.
Right. Do you need a leverage account for that?
You need a margin account.
Margin account, right.
And you have to be approved to trade option. It depends what level you're trading options. So, I mean, if you're just buying calls or puts, yeah, you can just do that in any approved margin account. But if you want to do other, like what we talked about with ratio spreads, or, I'm going to sell puts and I'm going to buy a call ratio spread, then you generally have to have a level 4 margin account, which means you have to be, that's the highest level you can get approved of to trade options. There's like level 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, again, you're trading the options, which expire, so it's not.
Yeah.
Right.
And you have time decay if you're trading the options, so it's not really a buy and hold thing.
You have to buy, hold, then buy again, then hold, then buy again, then hold.
And if you're sitting there buying calls, you have to somewhat time it, because they're gonna. Otherwise, you're just gonna be flushing your capital down the toilet if they expire worthless. I don't think anything can buy Tesla. Look at its market cap. Blue Apron update,
Anyone would
692.
buy Tesla.
Blue Apron 673.
God, that's just awful. I just hope they didn't have too long of a lockup period for the people who own Blue Apron.
6 months. It's got to be 6 months. So that's the minimum. So these guys can't sell until January, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it came out. When did IPO? The official date was 6/29. So they can't sell until the end of January earliest.
Do you want to own Blue Apron?
No way. No way. No way.
What is that?
Sending it to Stafford right now.
Do you want to own Tesla?
What'd you say?
Do you want to own Tesla?
No way. No way. No way.
I found it. We found.
I think I've been looking for that. If you're thinking, I think I know what you're talking about, and you got to send it to me if it is.
No, you're not.
Is it the 50% of traders who don't know about the bubble?
No, that was only 15%. No, I found the.
It was 15%. No wonder I couldn't find it.
only 15%. Remember, 15% of traders remember tech bubble. Let's see if that finds it. Here I found. This is more apropos though. There you go.
What is that? Put that up on Twitter next to it.
That's the new model, the Model 3 egg mobile. I do think it looks like an egg with wheels.
It does, right?
It really does. I don't have a what.
You don't have a what? Today's edition of The What and the Why is brought to you by Motive Wave Software. Motive Wave Software is a well-established developer of easy-to-use, full-featured charting, analysis, and trading software built for the individual trader. Motive Wave offers the best charting tools used by the pros, such as Elliott Wave, Fibonacci, Gartley, Gannon ratio analysis, but it's presented in a very easy-to-use way. Motive Wave has a product to fit any budget and any trading style, and one of the very best features, it's available on Windows and Mac. So go to pathtradingpartners.com right now to get your 14-day free trial, and then visit them at motivewave.com.
Yeah, my what is get your private keys to your Bitcoin and and don't trade going into August 1st. There's
all right. So here's my why. This is kind of the irony of this why. It just cracks me up. My why is never ask why. That's my why. So it's based off of the NASDAQ sell-off yesterday. So around 11 a.m. Eastern time or so, a few minutes, 10, 15 minutes after the NASDAQ futures, okay, the mini NASDAQ, hit an all-new time high. I did it. Stafford, I did it. Thanks for that new time trick. That's the way to do it.
Yep.
An all-new time high of 5995.75. NASDAQ futures basically started falling and didn't fall until they hit about 2.5% off that high. And that all happened in less than 2 hours. And all of a sudden, my text messages start blowing up. My phone actually rang, which really annoys me. I got a couple of emails. What's going on? Who do you think is selling? Should we just go in and buy this? Is this a flash crash? Is this a fat finger? What is this? Which is always funny because markets fall all the time. But when they fall fast, people panic, right? All of these, you got to buy every dip people panic when it happens really, really fast. And they ask why, because they go, well, should we still buy it? Is this somehow different? And my answer is always the same, right? Your anxiety ramps up even more. Like, I don't know why people are asking why it's happening. What's the difference? When you ask why your trade is going against you, it makes exactly no dollars of difference in what the effect of the trade was or the outcome of the trade was. None. If you got stopped out, you lost the same amount of money, unless it blew through your stop a little bit, which is possible. There is slippage. I was dealing with a long recommendation with a friend of Intel, right? And the target of the Intel trade was 55.44, and it opened up today at 55.77. That's positive slippage, right? Because he was selling on the open, he had bought at 34. So you get negative and positive slippage. So I'm leaving those out of the conversation for now. But essentially, why something happens doesn't change by 1 cent the outcome of a trade. So when a trade starts moving either for you or against you, I never understand why people want to know why it's happening, especially in that moment. Obviously, why is something that interests me, because it's what I talk about on TV, and my segment on this podcast is why. Right? It's the why segment. Mike does the what. And I think this is podcast 82, so in probably 50 of these things I've mentioned that I trade the what, not the why. The why is a bit of a hobby. So if you want to know why the NASDAQ fell the way it did yesterday, we talked about it a little at the beginning of the show, but I'm going to read a quote from Bloomberg. The weakness occurred as traders circulated a note by J.P. Morgan quant strategist Marko Kalanovic, who's also known as Gandalf, that cautioned investors on the risk of record low volatility in the equity markets, which the Cookie Crisp wizard here at Pat Trading Partners warned you guys of for months and months. So it was just a note from a well-known strategist who has previously been bullish. And then you combine that with a recent all-new time high and GDP being released in the morning, which was kind of an anxiety-raising number. You combine all that together, and we got profit-taking in the NASDAQ. And then Amazon missed, so you don't see a rush of people running in and buying like normal. I mean, you said NASDAQ was up, Mike, right now? I think you said it was up.
Really down, but that's poised to change in the next 10 minutes.
Okay. So it probably, I mean, this is not a trade recommendation, but it may be a dip to buy. I don't know. But none of it is affected by the why. When people are like, well, yeah, I want to know why, so I know if it's the dip to buy. Do you really? If I show you a NASDAQ chart and I point to every dip and notice that we reached an all-new time high yesterday. So every single dip was a dip to buy. So how does why let you decide whether it's a dip to buy? It's about timing. Timing is so much better illustrated by price action more than anything else. And the wrong question is the why question. The right question is the what question. What happened? That's the only thing that matters. That's it. The only thing you need to know is that the market did move. And you need to know whether you've got more money in your trading account now or less. That's it. The rest of it later, understanding that why something happened later is fine. But at that moment in time, all it does is encourage incorrect in the trade thinking. The problem with that kind of thinking is, you start to think to yourself, you start to reinforce unhealthy thoughts. Like, if it wasn't for fill in the blank, I would have been right. When fill in the blank happens all the time. And I'll bet you, here's a little exercise. Next time you lose money on a trade because of an unexpected news event, go back and look and see when the last time you had a losing trade turn into a winner because of an unexpected news event. And try and remember how smart you felt and how happy you felt and how many people you told at the end of the day, I bought Intel and it rallied up. I knew that was going to happen. No, you didn't. You didn't. You put on trades because you suspect an outcome, but you also hopefully put in risk measures because you know you can't be right 100% of the time. So when a news event happens or something unexpected happens, like a frickin' note from JP Morgan that causes 2.5% in less than 2 hours down, don't worry about it. It doesn't reflect on you. You want to find out later, find out later. It's interesting conversation. But don't think that for a moment that knowing why changes whether your long-term trading strategy will work or not. It just doesn't. So my why is, don't worry about the why.
I don't have a what.
Come on. Take a look.
I don't.
It's charting.
Huh?
It's charting.
What do you mean it's charting?
What is charting? You're looking at charts. You've got a what?
I actually don't have any trades right now.
Wow. Take a look at crude and give me a target. That'll be your what?
We actually just hit my target. We did.
Right. Mike's what is don't think of the why.
I think I have been going through a bunch. Everything's hit my targets. That's the problem. I mean, I had euro stuff, I had pound stuff, I had crude stuff, and they've all just pretty much today hit the target. So I don't have a new trade yet.
So you're claiming victory.
I mean,
So Mike, over the week, I gave you one of the unresponsive metal yo-yos that we've talked about on the show. How are you doing on your unresponsive metal yo-yo skills?
they're progressing slowly.